So the message that I have for today, simply titled, is, I knew it was going to be a little bit of an interesting email to send to Michael. I didn't have the time to call him, so I sent him the email. Title is, opening him and can it be? And so he gives me a call the next day. He gives me a call. I was in the middle of working with a client, so I couldn't answer it, but he sends me a text. He goes, I just want to make sure. The title of your sermon is, yes? And I was like, that's exactly correct. Just 2 letters, is. And he goes, okay, just had to make sure. The idea that I had for the title of is simply comes from the phrase, God is love. Now, today being Valentine's Day, it is an easy opportunity to preach about love. But what I wanted to do was not preach about love, being we know that God is love. What I wanted to preach about is. What does that mean in the sense of God is love? In the Conflict of the Ages series, the book where Ellen White details from before the creation of the world up until the redemption and the second coming and us in heaven with God, she starts off the story of this fallen world with the preface, God is love. Book 1, chapter 1, paragraph 1, sentence 1, God is love. And the very last thing that you read in that series, before you close the book, The Great Controversy, before we find out what the end of this all is about, the last book, the last chapter, the last page, the last paragraph, and the final sentence of the conflict of the ages is God is love. In 1 John chapter 4, verse 8, he went so far as to say that he who does not love does not know God, for God is love. It's not only a descriptor of God in this sentence. He did not say God is loving, but he said God is love. It is a facet of the identity of God. And I want to understand maybe just a glimpse of what that means. And I want to know how God used a word that is almost always a verb, maybe sometimes a noun, and how it got turned into an adjective, a title claim, that it's not just a part of a description about him, but rather it is a title of his own identity. I want to know what it means when John says God is love. In 1998, we had a president, and I know it's hard to believe, but sometimes politicians are known for being a little bit obfuscatory, a little bit wordy, a little bit confusing. But in 1998, we had a president named Bill Clinton who was being questioned before Congress, and he was asked a question about a statement in the past that his lawyer had made in regards to a previous relationship between him and one of his office staffers, Monica Lewinsky. He was asked a question in the present tense about a past tense statement that was a past tense statement. So it's rather confusing on its surface. And Bill, he gave his famous response. He goes, well, it depends on what the meaning of the word is. If is means is and never has been, that is one thing. If it means there is none, that was completely a true statement. But as I have testified, and I'd like to testify again, it is somewhat unusual for a client to be asked about his lawyer's statements. Instead, the other way around, I was not paying a great deal of attention to this exchange. I was focusing on my own testimony. And while that sounded like a bunch of words that might not have meant anything, it really is a great example of what the importance of the definition of words mean. Because he was trying to avoid answering the true question while definitionally responding to the words that had been given to him. Now, fortunately, what we know about our God is that he is not a God of confusion. He introduces himself by defining himself as am, as is. The word is simply a conjugation of the word to be. And he says, I am. God is. That is the identity of God. In 1 Corinthians 14:33, Paul tells us that he is not a God of confusion, but rather a God of peace. And while that's just one piece of the puzzle and it's only a description of what he is not, I want to look through the scriptures and see who God is. But to do that, I first want to talk about the meaning of the word is, to see what the word is. Let's bow our heads before we get into the full depth of the message. God, I want to thank you for this Sabbath day that you've given us, for the opportunity that we have to come together, Lord, on this Sabbath day and worship you. Thank you for the celebration that we have as a reminder to love. Lord, as we take a look at who you are and what it means to love, what it means when you say that you are love, give us the wisdom, Lord, and give us the strength to internalize what we have laid out before us today. Send us your Spirit, Lord, to this congregation and to every worshiper on this holy Sabbath day, that they might draw closer to you. Amen. So for some time now, I've been working on learning languages. Right now, specifically, I'm trying to learn Spanish, trying to learn French, trying to learn Greek. I actually just hit my 800-day mark on Duolingo. I remember when I started my streak, I was in Aunt Paula and Uncle Steve's living room however many Augusts ago, and I simply just opened up the app and started learning Spanish. And since then, I've added a few. And, I tell you, it's actually been quite helpful working in a restaurant, because you'd be surprised how many people come in that don't speak English, and it's actually relatively nice to be able to try to get through an order with them. But in my just early understanding of Spanish, one of the things that you learn is that there are two separate words for the verb to be, the identity of what something is. This exists in Spanish as well as the languages of its closest related languages. That would be Portuguese, Catalan, and Galician. The word to be has two different types. Now that is to be. I am, you are, he, she is, we are, and they are. All of those are conjugations of the word to be. But in these languages, there are two separate words for them. They are divided into two groups. You have the temporary, you have estoy, estás, which is I am, you are. Then you have he, she, está, we, nosotros, as well as they, están. That is a temporary to be. So if I wanted to say something like, I am tired, that is not a facet of my identity, but rather something about me right now. Something that is temporary. I can say, I am wearing a suit. I can say that I am standing here on the platform. But they also have the permanent form of the word to be, which is ser, S-E-R. That is, yo soy, tú eres, he, she, or es, nosotros, which is us, somos, and then the they son, the ellos, ellas son. That is a permanent descriptor. One of these ises describes the current state of being for whatever the subject is that we're talking about. Something that will change or realistically can change. I am sick. I am fine. I am ready to go. The other one describes an immutable or unchanging characteristic about the subject. Things like unchanging physical descriptors. I am short. I am tall. I am a man. We can't change that. We know that. And as well as some other things like if I have a wife, I would say I am a wife. I would say, I am a child. And it goes as far as parts of our identity where if I have a career, I am a trainer. That is the permanent use of the word because it defines my identity. So if I wanted to say that I am a child of God, I would not use the temporary use of the word am, but the permanent use of the word, because that is not something that can change. I am a child of God. Yo soy un niño de Dios. So when God is talking to Moses in the wilderness, when God is in the burning bush, and he says, I am that I am, the permanent usage of the word to be is used there. God here is stating that he is immutable and that he does not change. He says, Yo soy el que soy, which is I am that I am. He has this divine immutability, meaning that who he is not something that he has chosen and that he has dedicated himself to not changing, but rather his very existence defines who he is. He describes himself. In Malachi chapter 3, verse 6, God tells Israel that he does not change. And because he does not change, they are sustained and protected through him. I think every single time that God describes himself, or he titles himself, or he says that I am this type of God, or I am this, he's trying to tell us something very important about him. And so with that in mind, I want to look at names and characteristics and titles and things that God uses to identify himself. We have already seen that God said he is who he is, which on the surface sounds a little confusing. But he did that to lay the groundwork of defining himself. There are several passages where he simply refers to himself as he. He says, I am he. In Isaiah chapter 41, verse 4, he declares, he says, I am the Lord, I am the first and the last, I am he. It's another somewhat vague statement, because what does that mean? What does he mean if not he being God? Again, he is using himself to define himself. But what I believe he is doing is he is insisting to us that who he is who he is. You can say, I am what I am. I am not going to change. And while, to us on earth, when you hear somebody say that, you're like, oh, that person's stubborn. They're locked in their ways. How much more so is God locked in to who he is when he writes and tells us in his holy scriptures that who he is who he is. My favorite use of this passage, I am he, is in Deuteronomy 32:39. The exchange where he says, now see that I, even I, am he, and there is no God besides me. I kill and I make alive, I wound and I heal, nor is there any who can deliver from my hand. So here we have a simple explanation of power. It's rather similar to the verse that we found in Malachi, because God is who he is, we have certain assurances. And so the same thing in Deuteronomy. God said, I am he, no one can stand against me, I have all the power. We have these assurances. God knows that in this world, that in this sinful planet that we inhabit, that we have fear, we will have troubles, and we will have doubts. And so he spends in the scriptures countless interactions giving us this blessed assurance that his existence, his simple existence, is enough to see us through. He says, I am the Lord and I am God. Now, Lord is a title that rises above all others. Not a Lord who was simply given power or authority over another, but God, in creating us, he automatically has that dominion over us. See, when God created earth, he gave Adam dominion over the world. Adam was supposed to be a lord of the earth, someone that ruled over it. Now, he gave that control up to Satan, and God won that back from him. But the use of that word Lord is important because that signifies that God has dominion. He says, I am the Lord of lords. He is the Lord of all creation. Everything that exists in the universe, he has dominion over. To start the Ten Commandments, he declares in Exodus chapter 20, verse 2 and 3, he says, I am the Lord, your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. The words Lord and God often feel interchangeable, but they do have different meanings. God is a title that signifies deity and power, whereas Lord, with 3 more lowercase letters, it's a signifier of sovereignty and authority that our God has over us. And the last Lord that we have, this Lord with all uppercases that we often see in the Old Testament, is a personal, individual name that God has shared with us. That is the written expression of the name Yahweh or Jehovah. So we know that he is our creator God. He has deity. He has all power over us. But he has chosen dominion, responsibility to care for us the same way Adam was supposed to. And we know that he chooses to have a personal relationship with us because he shared his first name with us and wants us to know him on that basis. In Revelation chapter 22, he calls himself the first and the last, the beginning and the end. He calls himself the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last letters of the Greek alphabet. So, from all beginning unto all ends, he says, I am here. In Revelation chapter 1, verse 8, it says, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, says the Lord, who is and who was and who is still to come, the Almighty. This identity, this claim, it revolves around the simple existence of God. Not only can he not change, and not only is he our creator and Lord, but to all existence, he always was those things. He always will be and those things. He is not simply almighty, but he is the Almighty, the Holy One. But beyond the divine claims of power that we've seen so far, God throughout Scripture has used adjectives to describe himself. He says, I am holy, I am merciful, I am gracious, I am compassionate, I am faithful. He says, I am a jealous God. Every single time that God describes himself, he is using the permanent choice for the word am. He is saying, yo soy, I am, because he does not change. He laid the foundation for that when he said, I am he, I am that I am. Now, he gave us the descriptors of who he is: holy, merciful, gracious, compassionate, faithful, and jealous, and so on. Every single time he uses this permanent word. He is he who cannot change. So when God says that he is these things, we know that those things can describe what he is in his love for us. Because God is love, God is also these things. We know that love as an adjective does not make a lot of sense. Love, the word to us, does not describe someone. Loving might describe someone. Usually we have this characteristic, I am a loving individual. But it would be very difficult for me to say, yes, Austin over here, he is love. The personal embodiment of a characteristic, that does not make sense to us because we change and we waver and we are different from day to day, but God is eternal. And he said, you can know what love is because you can know what I am, and I do not change, and I am love. There are 3 different Greek words that are used for love in the New Testament. There is phileo, which is the love that someone would have for a non-family member that they love very much. You have storge and you have agape or agape. The word that God uses as a self-identifier is that agape love. It is eternal and it is covenantal, and it is the perfect and ultimate form of love. And God says that is who He is. We have another list of words that the authors of the Scriptures have used to describe who God is. He is described as one. We know that while there is the Father, Spirit, Son, we know that God is also one. God is light. He cannot exist in darkness because He simply is light. There is no darkness found in Him. God is love. There is no hate, there is no envy, there is no malice because He is love. God is righteous. He is just. God is true. He is good, wise. God is king and He is judge. God is able. God is not tempted, and He is greater than our hearts. All of these characteristics can be used then in the sense of who God is to describe each other. We know that God is both merciful and just. Those are not opposite attributes that occasionally contradict each other within the will of God, but rather identifiers of His being that He can express to us. God is both good and able. He is both true and wise. He is king and He is not tempted. God is judge and compassionate. He is jealous and He is love. Through the transitive property of equality, we can know that when A equals B and B equals C, that A equals C. So we can know that because God is all of these things and God is love, the love that God has for us is expressed the same way that all of these things are expressed. This love, righteousness, justice, truth, goodness, wisdom. All of those things expressed from God are love. Today is Valentine's Day. We know it's the day that the Western world, at least, celebrates, at least where the celebration comes from. They celebrate the legacy of a man who lived, if you were paying attention to my children's story, who lived in the 3rd century and defied the Roman Emperor Claudius II because he believed that the love that God gave us in relationships and marriage, this love was so that we could know God better. And he believed in the power of God's love so much that he completely risked his life, even to the point of execution, in order to help facilitate the love of God here on earth. When John said that he who does not love does not know God, he was not limiting God only to the simple characteristic of this unconditional love, but every single type of love that we know God can manifest through his being, through the characteristics that were written before. Yes, this unconditional agape love is the ultimate form of his character, but the breadth and the depth to his character, we will have to spend eternity trying to grasp. I listed the 3 words that we have for love. Phileo, the non-familial love. It's like love of friendships and affectionate attachment. I mentioned storge, which is the natural kinship that comes from family, from parents to children. And then the agape love, which is the unconditional, perfect covenantal love of God. But what we know about the word love is that it can be expressed in a multitude of ways. The ancient Greeks did not have 3 ways to describe love, but they probably had somewhere of at least 15 or more, even with combinations of each other. So, phileo is the friendship and the affectionate attachment. And as I list these forms of love, I want you to think about either 1 or 2 things. I want you to think about how this love can exist in your life, or maybe does exist in your life. And I want you to think about how Christ on this earth And God to us today gave us examples of these loves. Then we have philios, which means beloved. It is the adjectival noun for a very dear friend. Eros, which is a romantic passion. Romantic meaning that it is excitement and mystery that is associated with love. You have the storge, which is the natural kinship between family and parental and children units. And then you have the filio combined with storge, the philostorgia, which is the compounded love of a beloved and familial love. You have epithemio, which is a strong desire or a craving for something. That is often seen as like a surface level, oh, I love chicken nuggets. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but you really want some chicken nuggets. And so you express that epithemio. Then you have pothos, which is a yearning for someone that is absent from you. A yearning for someone that is not with you, that pothos. One that we've probably all heard, Philadelphia, which is the devotion of a literal or metaphorical brother. You have philanthropia, which that word sounds a lot like a word we know. It is the love for humanity. You have philautia, which is self-care. You have pragma, which is a realistic, long-lasting, and standing love. You have ludus, which is flirtatious and playful love. You have mania, which is an obsessive and jealous, possessive desire. You have xenia, which is the sacred hospitality that you would show to guests. And you have maraki, which is when you love something and you do it with all of your heart and all of your soul. I look at those forms of love and I think about what I can be with them or what God has been there with me. We know that we can know God through His love, and we know that He is love because He has given it to us. We have all of these feelings that God has placed in our hearts. If we just simply evolved from these single-celled organisms about 800 million years ago, why on earth would we have ever evolved love? There are so many animals that have been plenty successful without love. In the concept of survival of the fittest, love might be the greatest handicap on planet Earth. But God said, I want you to know me. And so He gave us the emotions. The breadth and the depth of His love is understandable in a multitude of ways. Love is merciful and faithful. It is not tempted. Love is holy. It is the first and the last. It is both gracious and compassionate. Love, it is the jealous love of someone who wants you to be theirs. It's the effort that you put into something that you want to be proud of. Has somebody ever said that when they baked a dish and it turned out really well, that the secret ingredient was that it was made with love? If it honestly is made with love, that is that meraki, doing something with your heart and your soul. Love is the pragmatic willingness to be real with someone, that pragma, that willingness and need to be real with someone about who they are to you, about what you need from them, and about what you would like to see with them. It's the friendship between two individuals that is so strong that it spans generations. David loved his friend Jonathan so much that even though he never met much of Jonathan's family, when he found out about Jonathan's death, he searched to the end of the kingdom until he found one final son of Jonathan, and he brought him in and said, I loved your father, I will love you, you are a child of mine. It is the desire to help humanity. When God came down, His agape love is what drove Him out of heaven to be with us. But how that love was expressed was through His pothos, His yearning for one that was absent from Him. He knew that he could not live without his children. His jealousy for us to be his children and his children alone was that mania that gave him strength throughout all his trials. The word mania is where we get the term maniac from. Somebody that's just absolutely crazy. God loves us like someone who is absolutely crazy. You would have to be nuts to come out of the throne of heaven and suffer the things that he did simply to call us his children. But God is that crazy kind of loving God. His eternal love expressed itself throughout his ministry. That agape love expressed itself through that philanthropia, the love for humanity, the simple idea that we needed him and he could take care of us. And he cried at the tomb of Lazarus because of the philastorgia that he had for his dear friend, even closer than a brother. We have been given this great and amazing opportunity to know who God is because he put versions of his love throughout the world. And he shared all of his love with us when he was here on this planet. In our own hearts, we can know God because God is love. And we have love because he has given it to us. This permanent, immutable love. Not because he has decided to always be loving, but because yo soy el que soy. I am that I am. Because he is that he is, and God is love. Let's bow our heads. God, I want to thank you for being love to us. Lord, for allowing us to understand the expressions of your love, for sending Christ, Lord, the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you for everything that you've given us. I want to ask for a special blessing on this congregation here, Lord, on this Valentine's Day, that we would fully understand, as much as our human minds allow us to, the love that we can have for each other and the love that we can have for you. Lord, send us your Spirit and give us the strength and courage to express that love to the world. Lord, it wasn't easy when you were here, and it's not going to be easy for us, but you have promised us that because you are who you are, that we will be seen through. Guide us and bless us. Protect us throughout the rest of this Sabbath day and until we meet again.